Nithyananda, everyone, welcome back. So today I'm going to be talking about how I overcame my fear of ghosts and darkness. So when I was a little kid, I had a few experiences with really rooted fear into me. I'll give you a few examples. So the first, I was laying in my bed and I was facing the wall, and I moved my leg and it felt like there was a hand which pressed on my leg, and I was thinking, oh, maybe it's my dad saying goodnight or something like that. So then I was just waiting for some other stimulation, him saying goodnight or coming and like hugging me or something, and nothing happened. So then I moved again, and again I felt the pressure. So I thought, what could this be? I have to see who it is. So then I slowly began to turn, but I turned like my face into the pillow so that whoever that was wouldn't see me turn over and know that I'm awake, whatever. All this cunning stuff. So I turned over under my pillow to see, and by the time I turned over, then there was nothing there. And so I just screamed at the top of my lungs like, "Mom!" And I like ran downstairs all the way into my parents' bedroom, like jumped in their bed and was like, "Mom, there's something in my room and it touched me." So that was one experience. Second experience. This one actually is a bit more, out there. But this was my experience. So I was laying in bed, and it was maybe 10:30 or 11 at night, and I mean that's like past maybe an hour I would have been in bed, and my door was open and the hall light was on, because for maybe 2 years before that I was sleeping with my door open and the hall light on because I couldn't stand the idea of darkness. And I actually had an attic in my closet, which was big enough for people to be in, and so I had tremendous fear of this attic, and that there would always be someone trying to kill me or some ghost in there, right? So whenever I would hear sounds coming from that area or from the closet or this creaking, I would scream and call my mom or my dad in and have them look inside the attic and check my closet. And this was like the space I was living from. So that day, I was in bed alone, and the door was open and the light was on, and I had my covers pulled up to around my waist. I was kind of sitting up in bed because I wasn't able to fall asleep. And as I'm sitting there, I start hearing this sound. And it was the sound of like carpet rustling. And I couldn't figure out what was happening for a little while. But then all of a sudden, this like panic mode, this extremely overtaken by fear thing happened in my body where I literally froze. And I couldn't move, and I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't scream, and I couldn't make any sound, I couldn't do anything. And I just sat there, like eyes open, like waiting. And this sound of the rustling of my carpet came from where, like near my door, all the way in, next to my bed. Like right next to my bed. I could just hear the carpet moving. And I was freaking out. And all of a sudden, it stopped. And then I felt this thing go and like touch from my feet all the way up to my chest, and in that moment I just panicked. Literally I freaked out, ran, crying and all this, screaming down to my parents. And so these two experiences put this extreme fear into me, and now I understand much more about these things, in terms of how I would have manifest these experiences. And even, yes, there are maybe entities that exist, but they don't have any power over us. One, they can't physically harm us, but we can project them into existence. We can create them in our reality. We can make it so that they come and manifest and scare us in these ways. But essentially, right, I had this fear of the darkness, and I had this fear of ghosts, and how I came out of it is a beautiful spiritual technique called completion, which my guru Paramahamsa Nithyananda explains and gives, which comes originally from the Agamas, a section called the Vijnana Bhairava Tantra. In that, this technique of completion is given, where you go back and you relive the incidents, but consciously, from the same standpoint, the same mindset, the same body you were in when you were a child. It is not remembering the incident, because that only puts us into powerlessness. But by reliving it and re-experiencing those experiences, the power over us and the wrong cognitions we held onto in those moments just lose their power over us completely. So after doing completion, by reliving these experiences and all the fear incidents which had happened in my life, through this technique, I conquered my fear to where I used to be, whenever I'd walk around some stranger's house in the dark, I would kind of be nervous or having some slight fear in me, or um, things like that. And all that left me after I did this completion process. And what's even, and how it proved itself to me was one time I was riding my bike to the library, and it was like 9:30 at night. It was pitch black, and the library where I live is connected to a massive park, and there's a road that goes around the park, and there's a part of that road which is covered on both sides by trees, and it was pitch black. But that day, I was just riding along. This is after my inner awakening, after I had done all this completion on all these fear patterns. I came to that spot, and I was just riding on the sidewalk where there's street lights, but I saw inside the park, like, hey, there's this road that goes into pure darkness. And I just thought to myself, I'm gonna just prove that I have no fear anymore. Watch this. I'll just get off my bike and I'll walk right into that darkness, just proving to myself I've overcome all this. And I just got off my bike and I walked straight in with sheer confidence, and that even when fear overcomes you, by facing it, you just come right out of it. So I just walked straight through, and that was the moment that it was just like, yes, the completion has brought a result that I am no longer afraid of darkness. I no longer have any cognition that there are some entities or ghosts or anything that has power over me which can affect my life, which can do harm to me. I have nothing to be afraid of in these ways. And after experiencing this big shift, I just knew completion is the way to overcome all these wrong cognitions